following video contains spoilers. We suggest watching the episodes alone in the dark. Hello, Wolfpack. We're back, and as you can all probably guess, this isn't our usual setting here. To make a weird story short, my current roommate, the House, is going through a really strange gaming phase in his life right now. I can finally experience the world's true greatness from outside these cold barriers. It is glorious. So it looks like the House's love for video games is giving him the power to shift his physical form to something more visually interesting. Hey, if the House has the ability to turn into a giant wire snake, I can buy this. But how convenient is it that this new setting fits the theme we have for today's episode? Yes, in case the title of this video wasn't obvious enough, we are reviewing the Haunting Hour episode Game Over. Why are we doing this episode over the other tales currently on my request pile? Well, I've got good news for you. It's my brother Wolf's birthday, and as my gift to him, I'm reviewing his favorite Haunting Hour episode of all time, plus seeing how well it holds up by today's standards. Happy birthday, brother. I'd invite you over to the house for a party, but I'd need the right tools to reshape our Minecraft living room here. Oh well, hope my house has a good reception for you to see this. So I've pushed back my requested episodes once more, just to get my brother's favorite story reviewed first. That's the power of nepotism, kids. So just remember, everyone, my brother Wolf, our channel owner, loves this episode over all the others. Now you all must be curious on what this episode is even about. Well, the Haunting Hour is writing a spooky story about video games. Yes, seriously. R.L. Stine's The Haunting Hour is going to tell us a supernatural tale of suspense about people getting sucked into the video game world, where the game becomes reality, and the heroes must fight to survive or die trying. This plot about gamers entering a real video game world has obviously been done before like a million times on shows you've all seen before, but now our favorite horror show is going to tackle this exact plot, and I plan to see how well they did it. However, before we actually start this review, one bad thing I have to say about this show already is that the episode doesn't use any popular video game icons, nor does it have that many fantastic special effects on account of this being a first season episode, and the show's producers having a lower budget compared to big budget action movies. So if you expected to see your favorite video game character cameo in this, like on Wreck-It Ralph, it's sadly not going to happen.
Oh boy.
But just because the Haunting Hour has no licensed video game characters appearing on this gaming episode doesn't mean it'll be all bad. In fact, this episode took a pretty big risk doing the entering a game world story so early in the show's run. I was kind of surprised that the showrunners were brave enough to do something this big when the show was still just starting out. Though some fans are divided on whether or not this episode was good, even back when it first came out on TV. Was Game Over an epic story that made supernatural video games cool again, or did it completely crash? Well, let's stop wasting time and hit the start button. This is my review on Wolf's favorite episode of R.L. Stine's The Haunting Hour, the story
Game over! We are going far to save all that we love. If we give what we've got, we will make it through. Here we are, like a star, shining bright on your world today. Make evil go away. Cold your cold will, we set it on. Cold your cold feet, there when you come.
So our episode opens up with a pretty cool video game opening where we see two gamers playing a discount alien isolation survival horror game when we hear one of the gamers trying to dodge the jump scare aliens. Now if you think that the game world will be anything like this, guess again. We meet our main characters, two hipster gamers named Kelly and Gooch. No, really, those are their actual names. The two guys are actually named Kelly and Gooch. I'm not bashing any males out there who have gender-neutral names, so I can give Kelly a pass, but it doesn't help that he's supposed to be an epic pro gamer. The show does give him the nickname Kellraiser. Haha, it sounds like Hellraiser. But I think this was the Haunting Hour's attempt to be funny by having these two awesome gamers seeming cool in the gaming world, only to then show them as gamer nerds who play in their mother's basement. You know, writers, most gamers are normal people. Not all gamers are loser nerds gaming in a basement with stupid birth names like Kelly and Gooch. Seriously, who names their child Gooch, let alone their main character? I know it's still the opening few seconds, but it's kind of hard to take your main character seriously when they're two teenage boys named Kelly and Gooch. Just like to remind you all that this is my brother's favorite episode. So, Kelly and Gooch are playing a co-op survival game, but Gooch needs help escaping the discount xenomorphs. However, Kellraiser abandons him to win the game himself, where his bro's character dies and he wins the game all on his own. Gooch calls out Kelly for ditching him, implying that this isn't the first time he's left him for dead in a game, but Kellraiser replies that victory is more important when it comes to gaming, since friends are a liability in multiplayer matches. Yeah, this is the modern Rainbow Dash of our story. When Gooch tries to tell off Kelly for being a jerk despite allowing him to play on his game station at his house, he gets called upstairs by his mom to help with groceries. But his best friend acts like a jerk to him while still playing on his best friend's game system.
Oh, you want to grab me a soda too?
Suddenly, Kellraiser receives an online message from somebody named Major Mayhem praising his abilities and asking him if he'd like to meet with him to audition for a gaming tournament to test his wicked gaming skills. Wait. I know that online gaming allows people to see a gamer's achievements, trophies, game history, and whatnot, but how is this Major Mayhem able to measure Kellraiser's gaming skills? I mean, how good is this kid's power level?
What did you say his power level is? It's over 9,000!
Well, anyways, Kelly naturally agrees to meet with this stranger to compete in his tournament, and an address is sent to him in response. The next day, Kelly and Gooch head off to find this tournament area, where guess what? The game host's building is literally just a short walk away from Gooch's house. What are the odds? Oh, but don't worry, I won't skip over all the unnecessary padding this episode uses to build up this gamer building. Think of it as an unskippable cutscene the episode intentionally uses. While the two are walking, Gooch warns his BFF that this all feels suspicious, but Kelly eases him by saying that it's worth checking out anyway, reminding him that they'll take safe precautions in case of stranger danger. Alright, finally some kids who aren't total idiots. Though you still have to deal with Kelly acting like a jerk and Gooch whining a lot, so you win some, you lose some. Oh, but while we get a very long scene of the guys walking to this gamer shack, we get a close-up shot of this old man. Okay, then we get a close-up shot of this jogger. And then we get a close-up shot of this guy washing his car. Purpose Haunting Hour? So after crossing down the dark alley where Big Yellow killed Wolfie, the two eventually find the tournament building right on the other side of their neighborhood. Small world, right? Kelly has Gooch wait outside for him in case of danger while he enters this really trippy but somehow ominous game studio where he at long last meets Major Mayhem, the Game Master. On a fun side note, the Game Master Major Mayhem is played by the guy who acted as Jack the Red Ranger from Power Rangers SPD. Yep, the Haunting Hour actually got a Power Ranger to guest star on this episode, so I really hope he gets an epic fight scene in this action story about video games. Also, if he's appearing on a screen instead of in person, shouldn't he look something like this? So, the Red Ranger once again asks Kellraiser if he'd be interested in a gaming tournament he's hosting, where the winner will achieve the epic title of Game Master, the greatest title in video game history. As you can guess, Kelly agrees, and he receives a prototype disc of a game called Z-Town, which the Game Master himself has issued to all participants. Before he can ask more questions, the Red Ranger soon leaves, because I guess Lord Zed is back. But of course, Kelly assures his best friend outside that this tournament is totally legit. Well, nothing can go wrong with this setup. So the two go home that night to start the game, where we see that Z-Town is rated D for deadly.
Rated D for deadly. You sure we should be doing this?
Oh no, not the D for deadly rating. That makes Mortal Kombat look like Pokemon. Gooch still thinks that something is wrong with this, but they start the game anyway, where we get a jump scare moment to show us that Z-Town is a zombie game. Well, no duh. Which explains why Angry Joe didn't review it. After they choose their weapons, they see an image of Major Mayhem's office building on screen, but before they can react, the power goes out and all noise suddenly disappears from the house and the entire world. Oh, by the way, the scene where they choose their weapons doesn't matter in the end at all, because they get entirely new weapons later on in the story. Seriously, it's like Telltale Games handled the script for a moment because their choices didn't matter. The two see it's daytime now and begin to explore the quiet house when they hear something upstairs. The two find Gooch's house abandoned with the kitchen destroyed. Oh no, Chad must have gotten into the funhouse again and came here. We then get a jump scare moment where a zombie that looks like the Crypt Keeper as a police officer attacks our heroes, but that doesn't stop the wacky, crazy reactions of our heroes for the sake of some random comedy. Yes, yes, consume the human children. I'd just like to remind you all that this is my brother's favorite episode. So after hilariously throwing stuff at Officer Crypt Keeper, Kelly decides to use the Princess Peach technique of killing him with a frying pan. They assume he's dead, but we get a predictable jump scare where the walker wakes up, the two scream like girls, and they run away. Our pro gaming champions, everyone. Kelly gets grabbed by the zombie, but in the most PG way possible, the guys narrowly escape by ripping off the monster's arm. The two wander around the neighborhood questioning what's going on here, before they finally realize that they're in the video game world. Yes, everyone, this is the Haunting Hour's attempt at showing us a unique video game world. It's just their typical everyday neighborhood, now partially trashed, with zombies lurking around every corner. Oh, so that's why this episode had all those pointless close-up shots of ordinary people doing stuff. It was all to show us that this world no longer has all those random people here, where zombies took over everything. I'm so glad we had a long scene of the guys walking around the area just to get that idea in our heads. Now, while this video game world is not as cool looking as places like Tron, I think the show is trying to go for a design similar to games like Resident Evil, The Walking Dead, and Left 4 Dead, which are of course all awesome zombie survival horror games that use our everyday world for post-apocalyptic stories where civilization is now abandoned, trashed, and devoid of human life. Those games were very popular at the time The Haunting Hour was still on TV, so it's strongly possible that the show was basing their video game tale on whatever horror games were currently successful. I can give this episode a pass since it wants to use zombie games as their basis, but that probably won't stop other viewers, especially the children under 7, from complaining about how this game setting isn't as over the top in its world compared to AAA games. I understand that some people wanted the show to do something like a totally CGI game world where tons of action would happen, but sadly, The Haunting Hour does not have that kind of budget to do scenes like that. Sorry, everyone. But at least we'll get funny action scenes in Grantpires. And let's not forget that we still have a major villain in this episode who I'm sure will deliver an amazing action scene in the story's climax. In short, I can give this episode downplaying the video game world a chance since it knows what kind of game genre it's trying to be. Well, at least until we reach the final boss, but we'll get there soon enough. Back in the plot, we get more wacky comedy moments where Gooch gets hungry and they go to a rundown bowling alley for food. Well, okay, as long as you don't pass by the Wii bowling game going on, you're fine. However, they're ambushed by two other gamers who mistake them for zombies, but they reveal that they're gamers too, so they don't die. Right, because as we all know, all multiplayer gaming tournaments have the players working together as survivors instead of combatants against each other. Do the writers even know how gaming tournaments normally operate? These two new kids are also skilled gamers named Mika and Sean. No, not that one. They all reveal that they were asked to compete in the Game Masters tournament for the champion title, but were pulled from the real world into the game where they have to rely on real combat skills to fight against zombies and take on the final boss at this world's gaming studio in order to win both the championship and their freedom. Given that these two new characters were just introduced to us halfway into the episode, and since they're not main characters, you can all probably guess that they're going to die. Yeah, even in horror movies, characters like these exist to be expendable red shirts who we know are going to die since they don't get anything revealed about them by the time they perish in their action scenes. Their introduction doesn't even add all that much, it's just inserting more padding to drag out the story. These two characters don't really receive that much time for us to get attached to them. We can't feel for them if we know nothing about their backstory. I need a break in between my script, so here's a pointless clip.
Who's that character? It's Wesker! Umbrella.
So the four players decide to work together to beat the game, but it seems they alerted the Horde as a group of zombies attack the bowling alley. But that's okay, because the game drops a Call of Duty weapon box for them to choose their weapons. Again, this goes back to my statement earlier, where choice didn't matter in the beginning, because we saw the main characters choose their weapons already, only to make a new decision later. Classic Telltale mistake. Before they pick what to fight with, Gooch reveals that he's a noob who's never been that good at playing video games in his entire life. Wait, so Gooch is not that skilled of a gamer? Then why is the gaming station in his house? Did he just agree to buy and hold the game station for his BFF Kelly? It just raises a few questions on why the writers didn't just have the game played at Kelly's house when Gooch admits that he's not good at gaming despite playing in most of his scenes earlier. Pay attention to your character traits, writers. So anyway, they all gain weapons from the mystery box, where absolutely none of the weapons are guns, because why would a video game offer guns as a primary weapon? And their life bars appear, meaning that the game has begun, with the Horde attacking. We then get a pretty cool but semi-dark fight scene where the kids start kicking Walker butt. It's a real shame that the film staff had such dark lighting for this scene because it's so hard to make everything out that well. You see, gamers, this is why it's important to adjust your game's brightness. The only thing this fight scene is missing is some radical game music to fit the tone and some additional gameplay suspense. We get some wacky comedy of Gooch sucking because he's a noob, Sean camping, and Kelly being a jerk by only looking out for himself, while Mika gets overpowered. Unfortunately, Kelly's selfishness to be the winner costs the group a team member, because Mika gets a game over. Yep, they learned the hard way that if you die in the game, you die in real life, as Mika was the first to go. They look for her outside, but accept that she's gone, where Sean calls out Hellraiser on being a jerk for allowing her to die. While they walk through Z-Town, Major Mayhem calls them to taunt them about Mika's death, where we all find out that this guy is the final boss of the game. Yes, this guy is our true villain. The Haunting Hour, a show well known for its creative, horrifying monsters, has chosen to make our villain a normal-looking human guy in a business suit. Seriously, guys, this was what you wanted? A dreadlock samurai? He's our main antagonist? I wouldn't make too much of a big deal out of this, considering that this is a first season episode, but I'd just like to point out that video games have offered us so many amazing antagonists, even normal-looking humanoid villains. We could have gotten something like Wesker, M. Bison, Jeddah, Ganondorf, or heck, even Voss. I think people would have loved to see someone who looked like Voss as the main villain. While I know we'd probably never get a big CGI demon or something, the show should have gone more over the top with this villain, since they'd be totally justified due to this story being in a video game. It's a little disappointing of a choice, but at least he's a Power Ranger, so he does have some awesomeness cred. What about me? I'm a cool video game villain too. Yes, Lord Raptor, but you also have a rape attack, which isn't suitable for the children under 7. Oh. Back in the plot, the Game Master warns the kids that they should have taken his game seriously, since Z-Town is no place for noobs. The kids tell him he'll pay for killing off Mika, where he accepts their challenge. But we get another jump scare where a single zombie takes out Sean. Yes, really, this pro gamer who we saw kill zombies earlier is easily killed off by one zombie dragging him down an alley. If you thought it was embarrassing that the only female gamer got off first, this guy gets the most awkward death scene ever. Seriously, Gooch and Kelly just run off, not noticing him being dragged away as slowly as possible before he's finished off by a zombie Mario piping him to death. The two head back to save him, but it's too late. He's dead. Yeah, I told you they were expendable characters. So Kelly finally, and I mean finally, realizes that he was a big jerk for allowing the other gamers to die when his best friend Gooch calls him out on what a terrible person he is for his smug attitude, saying that he was a bad friend for mistreating everyone. It's a good scene, but I'm more impressed that Gooch has waited this long to finally call out Hellraiser, considering what a doormat he's been for most of the story. Then again, maybe Gooch has been trying to tell his bro to stop acting like a jerk, and all he heard was this.
Hey, look, listen. Hey, look, listen. Hey, listen.
After getting their feelings out of the way, the two head off to level 2 to complete the game. See, the sidewalk even says level 2 on it. They enter the game's version of that dark alley where Big Yellow killed Wolfie, where I guess they have to beat a boss fight against Big Yellow.
7 minutes. 7 minutes is all I can spare to play with you.
No, sadly that doesn't happen, but instead they find a game upgrade where they gain night vision goggles. After alerting more zombies, for some reason Gooch decides to sacrifice himself to save Hellraiser, even though they both could make it out alive easily. To be fair, this is a pretty deep scene, where Gooch finally steps up and Kelly apologizes for being a terrible friend to him, so it's not like this moment was entirely wasted. Gooch confesses that he's a liability to his best friend, referencing the first scene between them, saying that he'd only slow Kellraiser down in the boss fight. But as Kelly's forced to leave his bro, Gooch gets overpowered, and it's game over.
Come on! Forget this! What are you doing? Someone's gotta hold them off. No, you won't be able to make it. You're the best there is, Kellraiser. Go in this thing. It's the only way. Let's dance! No! No!
Player 3, game over.
Goose!
It's not just a game anymore.
So, pissed off at all the senseless death in this tournament, Kelly makes it to the final level to challenge Major Mayhem to one last showdown. Yeah, great game you made. It only has 3 levels. 3 levels? Really? Who makes a game this short? After entering the boss stage, we see, what a shock, the final boss.
Let's do this! Well done, Kelly.
Slow clap? Really? Kinda played out, dude. Not in this dimension it isn't. In fact, I invented it. Nobody else has ever even done it here before. Well, la-dee-da. Hey, that's mine!
So, Major Mayhem draws twin katana blades for the final fight and tells his opponent that he gets to choose whatever he wants as his weapon to fight for the championship. Kelly tells the Game Master that he no longer cares about the title and just wants to stop the villain once and for all. And guess what our hero decides on for his final weapon?
Friendship.
That's right, he summons all his dead friends to fight by his side because I guess Sean and Mika became besties with him off screen in those last 10 minutes, since for all we know, he barely knows these two. But that doesn't matter right now, because we have all the players alive again to challenge this guy to a sweet boss fight, which will impress everyone.
Enemy defeated.
Game over.
What? What the...
That's it? That was the whole boss fight? We waited half an hour for a bunch of kids pushing an old guy onto the ground. Seriously, for crying out loud, the Electrocutioner had a more memorable boss fight. Now, ordinarily, I'd fly into an angry rant, well, a bigger angry rant, about this, and even question my brother on why he even loves this episode. But, if you can believe it or not, the story does justify this anticlimax when we get our twist ending. The Game Master congratulates the kids for kicking his butt and tells how Kellraiser is now the new game champion. But he reveals that he wanted Kelly to win the game because the Game Master must live forever inside of the video game world until a new champion can take his place, meaning that Kelly is trapped forever in Z-Town. So everyone except Kelly is released from the video game, while our hero screams in horror.
Opponent defeated.
What's going on?
Congratulations, Kellraiser. You are the Game Master now.
Get me out of here.
The game is in your command.
Please, let me out of here! Let me out of here! Let me out of here! Let me out of here!
Well, that sucks. But it doesn't end there, because we get a double twist ending. We cut to a random kid gaming online who's asked if he'd like to enter a gaming tournament. He agrees to join, where he's pulled inside the TV, where this never-ending cycle of video game horror will continue once more.
Captain N, the Game Master.
And that was how R.L. Stine created his darker and edgier reboot for Captain N the Game Master. But in all seriousness, how much power does the Game Master have if Kelly can just pull people through the TV into the game world? In fact, why didn't Major Mayhem just do this from the start instead of giving them a game disc to play at home before sucking them inside? Who made this world? How long has this never-ending nightmare cycle gone on for? Well, we don't exactly know, but I'll just assume that this was all the work of the haunted multiplayer servers. While we don't know how all this game world stuff started, this ending follows the Catching Cold ending, where an unwitting victim is pulled inside a supernatural force to live inside of it forever until a new victim can take their place. Catching Cold did it better, but here Game Over wants to imply that this will happen more often, which does add its own fair share of horrific implications. But that was the end of Game Over. How does it hold up? Well, honestly, it's not too bad. This episode is not scary, like, at all, but instead of trying to be an intense horror tale of suspense, it wants to be a more fun adventure. Game Over seems to be well aware that it's not scary, so instead of building on its scary moments, it tries to suck you into a realistic video game world in the style of Left 4 Dead. It certainly feels fun and exciting, but it does have its fair share of goofy moments too. There are a few scenes that go absolutely nowhere or just way too long, some cringy scenes that really needed improvement, very few special effects, which isn't a bad thing, and a real letdown of a climax. The characters don't get that much character development, and the whole idea that the magic of friendship saved the day is pretty silly, especially for the Haunting Hour. However, a main reason why the Haunting Hour can get away with a lack of character development is because the main characters are supposed to be relatable and have enough acceptance to make you want to see them live. They do give Hellraiser a story arc where he has to learn to stop being so selfish and putting winning before everything else, and he does change by the time the story ends, since he resurrects everyone else after learning how to accept teamwork and he frees them all. Though it does feel kind of wrong that Kelly changed in the end, only to suffer a dark twist ending where he's trapped forever in a game. Not to mention the fact that he turns evil in the end, since he's forcing people to come into his new game world to selfishly set himself free, so it's like he learned nothing. But I do get what kind of a story the Haunting Hour is aiming for. It's a basic tale about how winning isn't everything, and victory usually comes at a great price. Major Mayhem was an interesting villain, if not a little too generic for a video game boss, but we do understand that he wanted to lose intentionally to Kelly, only so he could be free from the game world. Some of you may be pissed off that we don't get a huge epic final boss fight with him, but story-wise they do explain why this was so anticlimactic in the end. He doesn't want to be champion anymore because video games took over his life and now he just wants it back. It shows that our villain really isn't a monster doing all of this for some sick amusement, but instead just some guy who's just as much a victim as everyone else is. It speaks to us on more of a story level over a video game level. Pun intended. However, even he does have some moments that don't add up, like his origin, or how much power he even has since he is able to communicate with the outside world and interact with others in his office. Though they do make him out to be a pretty clever villain, since his master plan worked out so perfectly, which does make him smarter than most villains. I can see why Wolf respects him. Sean and Mika were nothing more than minor characters, but they were okay for the most part despite getting awkward death scenes. I still have a hard time buying them as true friends to Kelly, especially since they know him in such little time, but the writers just wanted to show the children under 7 that they were okay in the end, so we wouldn't feel bad that people actually died on this show. Even though death is just an average Tuesday for the Haunting Hour, and we see many innocent kids die in gruesome ways later on, but it's the thought that counts. While Gooch does have one of the stupidest names of any Haunting Hour character, they do have him act like a likable character since he steps up in the final boss fight and even calls out Hellraiser on his horrible behavior, so he wasn't too bad. Overall, the story actually feels pretty fun to get into. especially if you don't look at this as a horror tale. It just needs some small improvements here and there to make sure that the story is solid. I know we're never going to know how this evil video game business even started, but I think we can assume that this might have been intended to be some kind of virtual reality game for the gaming community, but something went horribly wrong, and now it needs a literal game master to function and release other victims from its system after they entered it. At least that's all I can theorize. The story wants to be an enjoyable adventure tale that uses the video game becomes reality cliché, but naturally in the show's own unique way to spice things up. It's an okay story, but it's not going to gain a perfect score since it felt very rushed. If there's anything outright horrible I can strongly say about this episode, it's that the story is really rushed. Much like the episode Pool Shark, this episode really should have been split as a two-parter, because there's just too much story going on, which means that some aspects will get shorter attention, like Sean and Mika's backstory. Rumor has it that the Game Master was supposed to get a sequel episode, but for some reason it never did. But don't worry, at least the Pumpkinheads got a sequel, so that was so worth it. But yeah, in Game Over, it does feel way too fast, since a good chunk of the episode has Kelly getting into the game world in the first place, before the remainder of the episode actually takes place inside the game world. The only huge problems I have with this story is its hit-and-miss comedic moments, and the pacing. We want time to feel sucked into the episode, but Game Over was forced to compress its awesome adventure into half an hour. It's not the greatest episode the series has ever done, but it is a pretty good, light-hearted story that'll make you want to continue. It's a very narrow victory, but I give this episode a gold skull. Congratulations, brother. Your favorite episode barely made it into the gold standard. Game Over is a quirky little story that offers a more fun side to the Haunting Hour, with a decent tale about a video game coming to life and consuming a person's soul. While it is a little cheesy on a huge number of parts, okay, a lot cheesy on a huge number of parts, it doesn't feel too awkward enough to outright despise the episode. Some moments are hits and some are misses, but it does show us some interesting viewpoints on what makes a good gaming tale. It also has a surprisingly good lesson about not getting too invested in video games, since they show us that our drive to win or obsess over something so meaningless can cost us our lives, literally or metaphorically. Of course, they do this moral in the typical nightmarish R.L. Stine way, but it's still pretty good. Again, this episode is good, but not great. I'd recommend it if you want a light-hearted adventure over the much more disturbing episodes the show is more well known for. Game Over is an exciting journey that'll give you some great experience points of this show's greatness. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe, or just tune in for more videos posted here on Wolf Entertainment. I'm your host, Catastrophe, wishing my brother a happy birthday, and hoping the rest of you out there get your game on. Hey guys, not done just yet. I want to wrap up this video telling you all to check out my brother's second channel, Wolf and Friends Gaming. On that channel, my brother Wolf and yours truly post gameplay videos and other video game related stuff for viewers to enjoy. We play epic games like Crosscode, Valhalla, Sakura Fantasy, Telltale's The Walking Dead, Life is Strange, and many more. Though I will warn you all that some of these game videos were filmed in our bad audio days, so you might not want to see our earlier stuff. We also do top 5 lists, but it looks like Wolf might be taking over the list soon, since I'm in the reviewing game more now. Wolf is willing to take in any video game requests to play on his channel, and is hoping that some of you might be interested in checking it out. It's a fun little channel, where we both try to deliver some funny commentary on Steam games, and you can enjoy Wolf rage quitting a lot. He really loves working on this channel, and it'd be cool if you might want to check it out sometime. You can subscribe or not, it's all your choice. And unlike Telltale Games, this choice does matter, so feel free to see us gaming ourselves if you feel like it. Or don't, whatever, it's your life. Just putting in a shout out for my brother to check out his channel, Wolf and Friends Gaming. Once again, I'd like to say happy birthday to my brother Wolf. You're a great brother, man, and we can't wait to see you game or review more in the future. Thanks for sticking to the very end, everybody. I hope you're with us for the next round. This is Catastrophe, signing off.
This game is stupid. You spend an hour hanging wind chimes and then you fight. What kind of game is that? Twist to the back of the head. That's right, Martha. Hit him in the face again.
Time out, my joystick. It's not working.
Is it quitting? Look at that. Look at that. Look how bad I'm beating.
You know, I slept wrong on my wrist 2 weeks ago, and it's unfair that you're making me play with my
Oh, you
hands.
know, son, get your bad ass up and fight me.
Big Rod, for real, can we just time out for a minute?
No, you did. And I'm gonna desecrate your church.
You know what? Video games are forbidden.